From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Jen Landa.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
We are all here, and we are returning to Star Wars questions. We take a lot of questions live on Fridays. We take your calls. A lot of fun last week talking about the Maul Shadow Lord trailer, but we're going back to working into our show rotation, the actual Star Wars questions we get from our Patreon supporters. Joseph, I'm kind of excited to go back to this.
Yeah, me too. This has been something that we have done for a long, long time. Since the beginning of ForceCenter, we have taken questions. And since we started our Patreon 8.5 years ago, it's been one of the rewards of our Patreon. So we wanted to get back to it, and happy to do so. These are the last two questions, I believe, from the last prompt I put up on Patreon a while back. We're going to be doing these episodes every other week. So coming up soon here, I will put up a fresh prompt for questions in our Patreon.
Oh, that's what we all need. Fresh prompts.
Every morning.
Every morning. There we go. Hey, before we get into it, I always like to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by our shop on Fourth Wall. Check out our merch store and pick up a t-shirt to help support the show and represent ForceCenter out in the galaxy. I say t-shirt in the copy, but there's a lot of other things on there too. And if there's something we're missing, like you really need a tote bag with Speculate Responsibly on it, I'll make your dreams come true. Just let us know. Just let us know. Head over to ForceCenter-shop.fourthwall.com. Again, ForceCenter-shop.fourthwall.com. And Joseph, you mentioned Patreon, but we're highlighting our Patreon page and what you can get from it.
That's right. We're not building to any specific goal because we know it's a difficult time for folks, and there's lots of places that money can go. More on that in a moment. But if you're considering or interested in the Patreon, some of the things that come there on any level, you get into our Discord where you can have fun, friendly, lively conversations with other Star Wars fans. You get the prompt to ask questions like the ones we're about to talk about. We do the call-in shows most Fridays. We can call in and weigh in. And of course, there's also levels where you can get some merch. So lots of great things on our Patreon.
Indeed. And Joseph, you talked about other places money can go. Without a doubt, we're recording this episode in, quote, unprecedented times, which unfortunately are very precedented when you look at history. But we wanted to highlight a place well, take it away, but support for Minnesota is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. So obviously, I think most people are aware of what's going on in the news, that ICE is grabbing people, assaulting people, murdering people across the country, but in particular, sending 3,000 agents to assault the state of Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota, so I know a lot of people where the horrible tragedy happened on 26th and Nicollet is a place that I have spent years of my life. I did a theater show on that corner many, many times. I've gotten donuts right outside the shop where the murder took place. I've had first dates on that intersection. And all that is to just say, my hope is that anybody who sees this remembers that it's a real place and it's a place of community. And when you think about it that way, I think I hope that it makes everyone feel that this could happen where you live in a peaceful, wonderful place full of community. That neighborhood is called Eat Street because there are a lot of restaurants, and in particularly, there are a ton of restaurants run by immigrants and run by people from all different cultures. So it's a particularly resonant and painful place for this to have happened. So all of that is to say we're recommending the website standwithminnesota.com, where a wonderful person has compiled all sorts of different organizations you can give to help. So if you want to help in a specific way, legal, food, all sorts of different things you can find on standwithminnesota.com.
Yeah, great place to go. There's a lot of information out there. It can get overwhelming, and I've heard that from a lot of folks. Of just like not only from a logistical, what's the most effective way, but just like, hey, where do you go? And I understand that this is a time where a lot of folks will take to social media to vent, to rage. All of it, I think, unfortunately earned based on the situation. But I think something like this is tremendously valuable, and I'd love hearing. I don't love hearing because I wish I didn't have to hear from you on this, Joseph. But when folks like you or Pat Conkey, who I work for on Tuesdays, or Legion Miller, who runs a YouTube channel 2 blocks from all this as well, when you all speak about the actual community there and what it's like to live there, it does kind of make it real. Because other than that, it's a highlight reel we're all too used to, right? It's a stanza in a Billy Joel "We Didn't Start the Fire" video montage, and I don't say that as just a light joke, but just like that it can kind of separate us from the reality, and to hear like, yeah, that's a donut shop there, that's a date spot there, that's stuff that's real, and it could be any one of us in any city, and it very well might be. If we're not careful. So I appreciate your stories, and absolutely ForceCenter stands with Minnesota.
Thank you.
Jen, now we record these before we go live. So on the live show Monday, we welcomed you back to the show. After you were here,
Yeah,
you've been busy. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I feel like I have to say hi. How you doing?
Yes, I'm here and I'm happy to be here. Temporary. Oh, I'm hearing some weird sounds of my microphone.
You're good.
Nice little moment of escape, right? Which I think we all need right now. And these are interesting questions. And I gotta say, like, my mind frame, I'm going places, so I won't have another Disney rant. I'm just gonna say that. I won't do that. I'll spare you all that.
Yeah, if anybody didn't catch that, you can check out our news show from last week. I think everybody loved your passion, your fire, your perspective, the actual point you were making about more activities in interaction at Disney parks. But I also love that most of it ended up being framed around rocks, and so it did come off like the Anakin Sand speech of like, she's making some really valid points about Disney, and she just hates rocks.
There's so
very
many.
boring.
There's so many. I'm paying how much for me and my family to get in there to be amongst the rocks. Yeah. We live in California. There's lots of rocks here that I can go to for free.
That's true. For free. That's true. Yeah, that line got me. The hot rocks. The hot rocks got me.
Rocks.
Real tangible rocks. Yeah.
Well, let's dive in. Let's get to it. We do have two great questions that have been in the hopper for a bit, Joseph. I love this.
Yeah, these are great. The first one comes from Osvetnik 1138, Ethan. And this is what Osvetnik has to say. When can we start poking fun at Star Wars again? I feel like in the last 10 years or so, with all the discourse surrounding the franchise, bad faith or otherwise, Star Wars fans who genuinely enjoy what has come out feel really protective of all the movies and shows. Because of this, good-natured joking about the things we love seems to have gone down for fear of feeding the troll machine. Maybe this is just a me thing, but George used to openly encourage back in the day with Robot Chicken and Family Guy, as well as other examples. What do you think? Will we be able to joke around about Star Wars in 2026 like we used to around the mid-2000s, 2010s? All right. This is a great conversation. I feel like we've talked about it a little bit, but not in a long time. And I think Osvetnik lays it out really well. Mm-hmm. Really agree with the George used to encourage this, including once people started to make fan films, like once Troopers became big, Lucasfilm hosted a competition for fan films, and lots of them were poking fun. So it did seem like we're going to be in on the joke perspective back in the day. Which, again, for people of a certain age, it wasn't that everything was peaceful and nice in the early 2000s about Star Wars. People were making horrible, horrible statements about George Lucas and what should happen to him based on the prequels and the special editions. And yet he did invite the humor. So great points, Svetnik. Jennifer, you said you're going to take us on some wild rides with your takes.
The wildest ride in the wilderness.
Let's start there.
Yeah, this is a great, great question. I feel like there could be a study done on all of this because there's a lot of things happening. So, in the mid 2000s or right after the prequels were released, right? Obviously, we know, and I was one of them. I was a hater. Okay. And there were a lot of people like me who were haters of the prequels. We existed. The difference is that I wasn't making money off of YouTube on it, doing red eyes on George Lucas. Like it was a very different time. You might have these conversations with people in real life where you disagree, right? Like you love the prequels. I don't. I do now. And it's different when you have these face-to-face interactions, right? So since that time, we now have a whole ecosystem on YouTube, on TikTok, and wherever else where people are making money off of it. People are angry about other things in their life and they gravitate to this dark side of the fandom. And they're very, very loud, but they are a minority, like Kathleen Kennedy said. And so I'm going on a tangent. I'll bring us back. That I just feel like that is important context, right? Because the people that would show up to Star Wars event and that were active fans in the community loved Star Wars. Like, you go to Star Wars Celebration or you go to Comic-Con, wherever, like you go to your local comic book store. People love Star Wars. And that still exists, but what I think most of us are feeling is like this YouTube rage bait stuff. And it feels like it's kind of taken over. And unfortunately, I do think it has influenced decisions. And that is what's most troubling.
I think that's really good to bring up all of the bad faith element of it and how much when people, there isn't that presumption of love of Star Wars. Like, even when people are like, I hate Hayden Christensen, he's a bad actor. You didn't have to stop and go, are they just xenophobic against Canadians? It was truly, they didn't like his performance. And maybe they were expressing it in, an asshole way that I wouldn't agree with. But there are dynamics that are present now that were not present then. I think it's a great point.
Yeah, indeed. Wasn't a rant, Jen. Wasn't a rant.
No. It wasn't a rant. Okay.
So I'll be honest. All I could think of while you were talking with what you said up top is just hearing you say, "My name is Jenny, and I'm a hater."
And I'm going to destroy Jar Jar. I mean, that was like stuff that I did, right? And but there was also a lightheartedness about like, I don't like the prequels. Like it wasn't that like it was my identity. It wasn't like, oh, I hate these and I'm going to do all these nasty things and say all these nasty things about the performer. For me, it had nothing to do with Ahmed Best at the time. It was because I was like a grumpy Gen Xer, who didn't understand the brilliance of his physical comedy. Like, okay, and I grew up and now I get it. I'm sorry, right? So people can grow, people can change. But we're shifting as a culture. And I think it's also a generational thing that we have to acknowledge. We have people like Ted Cruz who are in our fandom. And a lot of people I don't know how old he is, of that generation, right? And so it's like, it's kind of this push and pull from the younger generation and the older generation. Who's going to win? I hope the younger generation, because they're the ones that are going to steer this in the right direction, I feel.
Yeah, I also think that's a great context too of like even the stuff that was vicious and I think wrong and was extremely painful to the human being Ahmed Best, not the untouchable machinery of Hollywood or George Lucas. Oh, he can deal with he can wipe his tears with his $1 billion. That kind of attitude of like there's nothing that you can say against Star Wars because it's like so big that is actually painful to people. And I think in time, getting to hear from people like Ahmed Best who are really affected and remembering the human cost. Like, I think some people like, even like Simon Pegg, who I like, in his British comedy show Spaced, like there's the joke where he gets fired from his comic book shop because he can't stop ranting about how much he hates Jar Jar. And it was like sort of a funny joke. But I think now society is entirely aware of the actual results of that, and it isn't cute and funny to be like, I'm gonna get fired from my job because I hate Acolyte. It's not cute or funny. We have the knowledge, I think, because of social media, because we're constantly hearing interviews and have access to the Instagrams of these real human beings that are being affected, that there's I think a better knowledge that anything you say is most likely going to be felt and understood by a real human being, not just the monolith that is Disney.
100%.
Ken, what are your thoughts on getting back to being able to have good-natured fun that Osvetnik is talking about?
I want to get there, and I feel as though I've been on all sides of it throughout time. like, like,
Yeah.
I've mentioned, we've talked about it before on the show, but like one of my favorite things alongside Star Wars growing up was Hardware Wars, which was like a short film, cheap and easily produced short film that came out like right after A New Hope took over the world. And George has praised in the past. It was, it has a cult following. I did an entire episode on it in Jedi Alliance back in the day. And I love it. And that's how a friend of mine, my friend Joel, we became really close friends because not only just quoting Star Wars, but like I mentioned Augie Ben Doggy, and he was like, Hardware Wars, Hardware Wars. And we connected over this loving spoof of something that was tremendously popular. You know, the Death Star was a basketball, for God's sakes. It was just, it was Hardware Wars, man. And so there's that. But then I'm also part, as Jen, you're talking about, part of the generation that started to use parody or jokes about Star Wars as a weapon. And then later on, I think not only just growing or changing, your taste can change, but when you start to see the faces of the people your jokes are affecting, that becomes a powerful thing, you know, in a lot of ways when you actually get to see it. And I was guilty of that in the Star Wars world, where I thought it was the same thing, but it just became clear after a while saying, but I want to go to Tashi Station and pick up power converters was a fun. We all agree that's pretty fun, huh? Pretty funny. Versus Wizard Yippee was that kid sucks, right? That was the dividing line that started to form up. And then when you realize that, and it shouldn't have to take interviews with Jake Lloyd, who's had obviously a lot of other issues that he's struggling with, and seems to be hopefully coming through a little bit on the other side with this. I know he Daniel Logan posted a picture of him the other day. He looked great. And then the Ahmed Best stuff, like, when it finds you, I hope you change. Side note, you know, in the mid 2000s, and Joseph, you and I have talked about this too, and Jen, I don't remember if you did stand up in the mid 2000s, but maybe you did. It was the edgelord days. It was the how far can you go? And I had a joke I did on stage because I just was out one night and I saw two Asian girls trying to walk in heels, and I thought it was kind of funny. So I thought, well, I'm going to do a joke about that. And I did it a couple of times, and it was a bad joke. And then one show, two Asian women got up and walked out. And I remember that was the first time little quiet Kenny from the suburbs, who's actually a nice guy, felt like, I've hurt someone. I've hurt someone. And for what? For what? So my friends can giggle at me off stage? And that started to change me. I've talked about moments of some of my humor on the Schmoes news segments, a segment I love doing that a lot of people still remember, making fun of Brendan Fraser and his failed career, only to find out years later, we didn't know, but we found out years later he had received, you know, he'd been sexually assaulted and harassed and kind of went into depression. And it's like, man, I'd do anything to take that joke away, you know, that I did. So I think for me in Star Wars, it started to crystallize that this was different. One of the moments, sorry, I'm going hot rocks. I hate hot. No, our friend of the show, Mark Riley, was and occasionally still is in a stage performance. First, it was called Star Wars in 30 Minutes. Very popular. George Lucas actually requested to come have it performed at the ranch for him. They went to early celebrations, and then George himself, through Lucasfilm, said, we'd like you to continue to do this, but it needs to be Star Wars in 60, and I want you to include the prequels. So the first time I met Mark Riley, really, I went to one of the performances, and the first half of the show was 4, 5, and 6, and it was great, and everyone's howling, and I want to go to Tasha's thing and pick up power converters, got a standing ovation. Like, we all love that line. Then the intermission happens, and the prequels happen, and the same lines, mostly a Gen X crowd, because this is 2011. It was met, everything was met with, and by the way, they weren't doing it differently. They were just doing their performance, but the crowd took it as, yeah, you're right, it does suck. And it was weird to witness, and that kind of, you know, years later meeting Joseph and changing, and I'm suddenly starting to get things. And also, I'll end that section of it to say, flash forward to now, you're both talking about things that I worry about. Like, I'm part of the defensive problem sometimes. I just had coffee with an old friend who's used to be in the Star Wars talking world, and I'd admit, like, yeah, I'd get defensive with you because you loved Andor so much that I felt I needed to defend Book of Boba Fett, right?
Right.
And I want to find a little bit of balance in that too, because I think there's a lot of fun things that we can talk about, and it's about a shared love of this wild, weird world, including line deliveries, including this, we went after Jake Lloyd. We didn't go after Mark Hamill.
Right.
For delivering lines. So all that to say, Joseph, I think your original question was, can we laugh again? Yeah, I hope so. And I want to be part of it and find the right way to do it.
Yeah. I think for me, in terms of like figuring out like, well, what is the solution to have good natured fun that doesn't tip into, oh, actually, I mean that to denigrate the film, the creators, bad faith, all that. When I was in college, I had a couple different classes that studied the philosophy of comedy. And my theater company was named after a phrase from Sigmund Freud's, novel essay about comedy. And that phrase is the joking envelope. When what he was talking about is the social construct in which we all agree we are now in a different agreed upon space. We are literally in a sort of joking envelope in which we can say things that we would not say outside of the joking envelope. And some of the things we say are going to be innocent just for fun. And some of them are going to be what Freud called tendentious. They're going to be attached to meaning. But within the joking envelope, we have a little wiggle room of what it is. And like when I've done like comedy classes and in panels, have talked about like imagining the difference between if you're at work and you walk up to your boss and everybody's just standing around and joking and laughing. You haven't actually started work yet. And you say, hey, my boss, Kevin sucks at golf, and everybody laughs, ha ha ha, because we're kind of in the joking envelope, we're joking again. But if you're in the middle of a meeting and you're talking about important business strategy and you raise your hands like, hey, I want everyone to know our boss Kevin sucks at golf, everybody like, dude, what an asshole. Of just in that, to me, was like kind of an example of like being aware of what space are we in socially. I think social media has entirely destroyed the joking envelope often. So I think we can probably have good-natured joking places and spaces where we can agree upon the joking envelope, like maybe in our Discord, which I don't mean as an ad, but I mean spaces where everybody feels like this is a safe space where if people make fun of somehow Palpatine returned, it doesn't mean they hate Rise of Skywalker and think J.J. Abrams should, be marooned in Australia forever in the desert. So I think there's that. I think on social media, like we're getting to the point where people like usually literally have like the sarcasm tag, right? Because otherwise because that is like a joking envelope thing where people post and figure everybody knows me. Everybody knows that this is my list of beliefs. So of course they're going to take this sarcastically, but then a stranger sees it and has no context of who you are. And like, how would I know? Well, now I've got, it's like, should Star Wars fans have like a /GN for good natured? They post the Star Wars joke of like, this is Amidala's stupidest headdress, #GN, good natured. I love Amidala. I just find this one headdress is kind of funny the way it bobs, right? Those, how do we adapt to the communication spaces that we are in a way to preserve being able to truly good-naturedly joke of, I love this, but this one thing to me is funny.
Yeah. We need to start posts like that. I'm delivering this post with a good-natured tone, filled with love and admiration.
And I know people get mad about that because like, it's a junky way to communicate, but it's like, we humans adapt all sorts of different ways to communicate.
Yeah. I think that it's like, it depends on the situation, right? Like it feels like I can't think of what, I think that there were things in Andor that we all kind of like moments where we were able to pick out and kind of laugh at, like Granny. Like, remember the Granny that people kind of were doing fun things around that. This is a very serious show, right?
Yeah.
But we all kind of were like, we love this little weirdo that's here, Granny. And like, I don't know, we can pick out things like that. One of the concerns I have is I literally just saw someone post this where they compared the ICE agent that committed that horrible atrocity last week to Han Solo and Alex Preedy as Greedo. And I was like, oh no. And so this has to be acknowledged, because I think what happens is that we are in a group of people, and there are some people in our fandom that are clearly missing what the core of Star Wars is. They are looking at Star Wars from a completely different lens. So for us to be able to have shared, joking, fun times, if you believe that this murderer is the good guy Han Solo, then we're already at a disconnect, right? We're
Mhm.
not going to find the same things funny. And I think, unfortunately, what is happening in our world right now has cast a huge, like, it's like, how can we have fun in this fandom when we have people, and this is not like some YouTuber, this is just a fan who just was
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
posting this. And
Mm-hmm.
I was mortified. And this is not the first time that I have seen people comparing the bad guys in our world to the good guys of Star Wars. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what? Are we watching the same movie? So it's like, I don't know how we're going to get past this point. We got to get out of this in order to get to a happy, fun place again. Because as long as we have that, which I don't think we'll ever get rid of, there's always going to be people who clearly are like, are clueless or wanting to pull these things for their agenda. But unfortunately, those people also have like YouTubers that are like feeding into that and confirming that, right? There's
Mhm.
spaces where they can get that kind of agreement. Yeah. So I don't know. I just saw that this morning. It really upset me because I was like, how could this person possibly think this?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, those, and I think that's a really good point of like these comments that have Star Wars on the surface, but they are not about Star Wars, and they're not
Right.
about any, and it isn't that kind of disagreement of, I like the sequel trilogy better than the prequel trilogy. That's a taste disagreement, right?
Right.
I fundamentally, truly misunderstand the blatant messages, like, uh, that's not a fan I need to engage with. I
Mm-mm.
yeah, for that kind of thing, and I think for some of the kind of like just horrible xenophobia we've seen around things like the Acolyte, like, look, I'm sure I could sit down with you and we could both talk about parts of the original trilogy we like, but it's not worth meeting hate halfway, and so
Mm-hmm.
you're out, you're done, as far as I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned. When people bring just hate into it, it's like, no, you're just done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the Andor part of it is really interesting to me, and I think because that show was for the most part so beloved, there's some people out there who's like, I found it boring, but there aren't people who like hate it with their entire heart, and it's not
Mhm.
connected to, oh, that hate is actually the tip of an iceberg to some real world hate. It's just some people who are like, slow, boring. So it's so in general beloved that I think you almost can make jokes about it. I feel like I've seen like photoshops of like Kino Loy with like, water wings on so he could, swim and
Mm-hmm.
survive, right? And like, I don't see that and go, oh, that person hates Andor and thinks Tony Gilroy is a
Mm.
bad person. There is an assumption of good naturedness about the joke because the love of Andor is so large. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's to me where I almost feel like if we want to have good natured jokes, we need to find communities where the love is so large, the love is so assumed
Mhm.
that you feel safe in making the joke. And I
Mhm.
think, like, honestly, with some of our live streams, um, you know, we know the majority of the people in them. Anybody of bad faith reveals themselves pretty quickly and gets blocked. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to feel more comfortable. Of like, I could poke fun at something in the sequels, or
Yeah.
Kenobi, which I love, because we're starting to build a bubble there where the love is presumed, which is I think what you
Right.
need for good natured joking is to have, and that's why the classic trilogy where people could be like, half of my Star Wars conversations in the late 90s were poking fun at the original trilogy, and it was always fine
Mm-hmm.
because it was,
Mm-hmm.
the love was so great that an assumption of good natured joking was there.
Well, also, it implied that you had watched it 50 times, at least.
And
You
yeah,
know?
that's another great point of like, yeah, the number of people out there, like, again, if you don't like Rise of Skywalker, that's just fine. And I know there are people who've given it a multiple chances, but there are a lot of people like, I saw it once in 2019, like 800 tragedies
Yeah.
ago. I remember almost nothing about it except for these two lines I hate. And like,
Yeah.
fine.
And it's hard. This is why I say I'm definitely culpable for being on the defensive side, where, especially what we do here weekly, where someone makes a somehow Palpatine return joke with malice. I'm like, cool. Do you know what that actually represents? Do you know that's not about his origin story? Do you know that's actually a sign about how, man, evil has returned? And have you looked at the news? Evil has returned. And it's like suddenly I feel like Michael Douglas at the end of Falling Down. I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy, which, by the way, I think he probably was the bad guy in the movie, but like I have that feeling. Robert Duvall's pushing me off an end of a pier, and I'm like, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original
So I got to find the balance.
Yeah. The original trilogy generally still feels safe to me. Like, people can make a stormtroopers are bad shots joke, and there's no assumption of ill will behind that. I feel like somehow Palpatine Returned is kind of getting there, where, even with Maul, there's a bunch of good-natured people who are excited about Maul, but everybody's making jokes like somehow Maul returned. People who love the prequels dress up as Anakin and go to conventions with, like, holding, signs that say, / no sand. So, like, the Anakin hates sand joke from the prequels seems to be in this sort of safe space where if you hear somebody make that joke, there isn't an assumption that you hate the prequels and you're personally attacking Hayden Christensen. So I'm kind of, Ken, why do you think there are a few little things from different parts of Star Wars that have sort of risen to this place of almost safety where there is an assumption of goodwill?
It might be, again, because it's this giant shared experience, where, we all had the I hate sand thing in our mind from 2002. And I think, too, you could do an analysis of it, as we have done here, of what it actually means about their points of view and their relationship, blah, blah, blah. I think it's actually an insightful moment. But, yeah, I think there's things that maybe rise above Star Wars into the zeitgeist, where you feel you're part of the celebration of this thing. I'd mentioned before, our buddy Billy Patterson and old Billy Business, we went to that Revenge of the Sith screen, and then just everyone's reaction to Anakin pulling out the saber in front of Source Bandim to kill the younglings got like cheers and people waving their lightsaber. Both Billy, a young parent, was like, "I'm a guest," and we both had to be like, I think we talked about the show, and you provided some insight too, Joseph. We're just like, hey, that's a giant shared pop culture moment that we're celebrating. We're not celebrating the killing of the younglings. We're not celebrating how it's a, hey, we all were there for that, and now we're here again. And even I had to be back and pull back and be like, you're right. I shouldn't be appalled. Shouldn't clutch my pearls there. So I think that's just, if it gets big enough and you understand the love. I think I many reasons I get grumpy at bars, but like, it's just the, when I just feel that you're just swinging a sledgehammer, because you feel, everyone else is with you on it. You know what I mean? And I'm over here going, you're breaking that, you're hurting that. At least be aware of it. I don't know.
Yeah. One other thought for both of you. Svetnik asks about like Robot Chicken and Family Guy and things that were kind of big and commercial that Lucasfilm, gave the blessing to. Do you think the Lego shows that Lucasfilm is producing, are they kind of the closest to that? Because I think most people see those as good natured, and they certainly poke fun at bits and pieces of the saga and the fandom by celebrating, like, okay, there's this wild Darth Jar Jar theory. It's been around for a long time, so we're going to lean into it. And there's an assumption of goodwill with the Lego shows. So, Jennifer, how do you feel about how those shows fit in with all this?
I think it's a branding thing, because it's been like the Lego franchise in general has been able to poke fun at various things, right? Like with the Lego movie. So it makes sense that Star Wars Lego would have movies and show episodes, whatever, would have that similar tone. And I think it's acceptable. The audience is younger. Some of the things are clearly geared towards more adults, right? But the kids still laugh because it seems funny. But the thing with, I don't know about Robot Chicken, I go back to Star Wars Detours. There was a little bit more of like a skewer. I cannot imagine we would get anything like that from this with Disney involved. Like Lego Star Wars is very safe. It's very fun. It's more tongue in cheek and less like pointed, right? Which is what Star Wars Detours. And Robot Chicken was like kind of an in-between, but it felt like almost like it took comedy to like absurd levels. So I feel like that's its own thing. I don't think we'd ever get anything like that again either with Disney. But because I mean, look at like when they do the Disney galleries, like it's so controlled. Everything they talk about with, about their stories, about their company of Lucasfilm is so controlled, and they don't want to allow anything like a comedy show to like poke fun at Star Wars. Does that make sense? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Yeah.
that frightens them. Comedy frightens people, especially people in power. Hence why,
Mm-hmm.
the thing with Jimmy Kimmel happened. But I think that that'd be wonderful if we had something like that. That could be like a
Yeah.
Star Wars South Park. Can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean, I I I like what you're saying about Lego. I think Lego is kind of in the joking envelope because that's their brand. I'm like,
Mhm.
we all know that this is coming from a good-natured place. But it would be fascinating if they did, Lego at night.
Yeah.
That is like, like here's a little bit more adult. There's a lot of South Park that I find is very funny, and not to get into a whole South Park thing, but I
Yeah,
also
no,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
there is definitely I mean that is the challenge is, when are you making a sort of political statement within your jokes, And there's a lot of
Right.
South Park that's just funny to be funny, and to go back to Freud, a lot of it is tendentious, a lot of it is actually we're smarter than everybody, and we're not going to take a side on anything, and the smartest thing
Mm.
anybody can do is sit on a fence forever going, I'm smarter than everybody, and that
Mhm.
not to open up that entire can of worms, but I did. Sorry, I'll
Okay,
close
how
that
about
can of worms.
Simpsons? How about Star Wars Simpsons
Yes.
then? A better
Yes.
example. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
actually fits more in line with it. And it's on Disney Plus. So
Yeah.
Well, they have the May 4th day stuff. David
Oh, that's
Silverman has directed
right.
a few of those that stuff, but they're
They're
different
very
vibes. Yeah,
they're
different
very,
vibes.
very different vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So,
Mm.
any final thoughts on this topic, Ken?
Well, in regards to the Lego one, I think Jen, you talked about it in a great way. There, it is kind of it's within the branding. It's almost like the calls are coming from within the house, and it's done with love. And I did see one post equating to like, oh God, what was it? It was something about something now that Lucasfilm won't do is akin to them being cowards about not doing Darth Jar Jar for real. Like, and it was just like, okay, now we're in the theater of the bizarre with this. I don't know, but yeah, I like it. And then, yeah, the detours things is interesting too because it was essentially calls from inside the house too. If that had played out and been released, and they worked, with George. A couple years ago during COVID, I interviewed Kevin Shinnick, who was one of the staff writers who wrote a Star Wars book, I think the Force Collector book,
Mhm.
and he was talking to me a little bit about it. It wasn't free reign. So it still was slightly controlled. But the Lego stuff is the spiritual successor to even Hardware Wars, Muppet Babies, some of the Family Guy stuff. I say I could give or take Family Guy. Like some of it, I haven't watched it regularly in years, but like some of the stuff works, right? Because I think it does come from Seth MacFarlane's a fan,
Yeah.
right? Whether or not he's always going to be on point with everything he thinks or says doesn't matter. I think I can have accepted that's a fan. I think Seth Green and everyone behind Detours fans as well, and that's why I've always liked the Robot Chicken stuff. And I think Lego I think they've taken that emperor from Robot Chicken,
Yes.
who's the Millennium. What now? And they've taken it to without a doubt taken it to Lego, and it's fun, and I like that because I think that's fun. I mean, how many we mentioned it seriously last week, but how many times have we gone off on the Palpatine ordering uniforms for the next day? Like that is kind of fun, and I like you mentioned Troopers, one of the first ever real viral parodies in the internet age. Like I've always was a fan of that. I always and it didn't overthink it. Not that you shouldn't always not overthink things when it comes to comedy, as we talked about. But so I wouldn't mind more of that too. But anyways, I didn't watch the last Lego thing, so I'm part of the problem.
Yes. I have not got caught up either. I haven't seen Darth Jar Jar yet, but I would like to. Yeah, I mean, I think.
Sorry. I apologize. It's so built into the Lego brand. You mentioned it, Jen. You're correct. Even back to the first Lego Star Wars games, the prequel ones, which had no dialogue, I remember, were very fun and funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I played those during a time where I, quote, didn't like the prequels as much. And I don't talk about it as much. I talk about Battlefront 2 helping me love the prequels more. The Lego Star Wars ones made me actually start to have fun with it. And I think that's a good example. And they've launched from all that from there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it would be great if I know that this will not happen, but if Disney Lucasfilm, reignited the fan film thing and said, like, we're going to host 5 minutes. Obviously, we're going to censor it for anything truly offensive, but create a space for like people to have a voice, because like I don't have a sense of like, hey, you're 19 right now and you grew up with the sequels and you love them. What kind of jokes do you want to make? What's funny to you about it? Like, I would love to learn that from the younger generation. I would love for them to have a safe space to make good-natured jokes. That would be awesome.
You know what? You make me think of one that during season 3 of Mando, that girl that went viral for doing the Bo-Katan stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great example
yeah.
of someone who did it clearly out of love, clearly love of the character, found corners of comedy, like was Bo-Katan just waiting there in the throne the entire time, getting her legs straight. Like, I think that was great.
It was very funny.
Very funny, and it was clearly done with love, and Katie Sackhoff loved it, and I think that was it probably could have been used by people to be like, yeah, right, that's bad writing, but we didn't care. It got so big, and it was so funny, and it was so pure. That's a great example of how it can still work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and then just to go back to Svetnik's question, because often we use these questions as launching off points to work through stuff. My biggest thing is I think we always can joke about Star Wars. We just need to find the right pocket and the right community and the right place in time, so that there is an assumption of love, so that all the jokes are coming from a place of good nature. Any final thoughts, Jen?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, always punching up as opposed to punching down.
Yes, agreed. All right, any other final thoughts from you, Ken, or shall we move on to the next question?
No, I'm going to a bar tonight where I'm going to have to practice peace. If anything should happen.
Wow.
Yes, I'm not going to say anything except for our next question comes from James Holmes. James starts with, hello there. Just going through a rewatch of Ahsoka, my personal favorite of the Disney shows. And it got me thinking, if you won the lottery and had enough funds, which Star Wars project would you try to bring about? For me, it's a Timothy Zahn novel set on Peridia between Rebels and Ahsoka and connected to that. A Tales of the Survivors show following Baylan Skoll and Quinlan Voss. I like the idea of a story following Voss setting up the hidden path to try to save lives, and at the same time following Skoll making the decision that actually we need a complete reset, perhaps mass destruction as a catalyst for that as necessary. You may go bigger or smaller, but that's what I'd like to see. I'll start by saying, James, I think those are great ideas. I believe that Timothy Zahn has expressed his desire to be like, let me loose. I'd love to write a Thrawn on Peridia novel, and I think a lot of people would enjoy that. And I love this pitch for Tales of the Survivors. All the animated Tales of series, I think they're at their best when they're take two characters and show those characters being faced with a similar challenge and responding to that challenge in different ways. And I think that's what you're pitching, a Tales of Survivors idea, where two survivors of horrible massacre of the Jedi failure. How do they address that? By helping people, or going, yeah, we gotta scratch it and start from the beginning. So I think those are both great pitches. Jen, where do you go with you've won lottery and you're going to use the power of money to make a Star Wars?
I'm making this Death Troopers.
There
making it. I literally had to dust it off. There was like all this dust off of it. And it's been years since I read it. I just have memories of being terrified. I read it in over 2 days in Cape Cod. And there was just something really creepy about being in Cape Cod. I'm not used to being on the East Coast. But I love it. Like, obviously people love troopers, and right now it's kind of complicated, right, to like the troopers. But this takes it to a place that I'm happy with, where they're all killed, and they're like zombies, basically, right? They're zombies. They're infected with some sort of virus. Now I don't remember who the main characters are or what. Like they're on a ship that's abandoned. I can't remember, but I would love to have it be like basically Alien meets Star Wars. So having a really amazing female character at the center of this, and some maybe like just a great ensemble, interesting characters. I think this could be really fun. And I'm not a horror person, but this is gonna get you to the movie theater.
Love it. Is not a horror person. Why do you think you are gravitating toward a horror pitch?
Because I know it's Star Wars, so it won't be so scary. Right? It's not going to be like Saw. It's not going to be like, what is that one with that crazy clown? Oh, God, I can't.
It?
Punisher? No. Equalizer? Wait, well, no, that's a CBS show. Someone in the comments, you know what I'm talking about. It's like this scary clown that has a hat, and it's not Pennywise.
Okay.
What
Oh,
is that
Terrifier.
clown?
It's the Art
Terrifier.
the Clown, the Terrifier series. Yes.
Yes, it's not
Yes.
that. I don't
Yes.
like that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
horrible. I will be up for days. But this is safe. And look at that. This is
Yeah.
all right.
For those listening, as Jennifer said, this is all right. She held a bloody stormtrooper helmet on a hook up for the camera to see. That's great.
all
I would
right.
also love a horror Star Wars film. Ken, where do you go with this?
I follow Jen here on literally, and being afraid of horror films, but I will watch yours, Joseph. I will watch yours.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a great question, James, and we've had versions of it over the years, and I love revisiting it because it changes. And there's been things I've said before, a pod racing series and video game that is more franchise about. I want to do the Game of Thrones like Rise of Chief Chirpa, the Bright Tree Village tales. There's all the kind of things. Recently, we touched upon, let's take that Andor vibe and put it to the formation of the New Republic, or maybe when the First Order first emerges. And I think there's room for that. I think if I had what James has said, just a massive amount of money where I could swing on into the offices down there on maybe I could use my face when I grow my beard and people think I kind of look like Dave Filoni. Maybe I could get on the lot and, it's me, Dave Yinzer, go Penguins, go Steelers. Yay, ketchup on steak. And then get up to Bob. I do think a short form series, like a limited series, 6-episode animated run on or a movie on young Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine is still somewhere I do go in terms of just like what a pocket of storytelling space to explore. I think I'd go there. Lately, I've been thinking about, and I know I've been really bad. I never ever corrected myself and read that first Battlefront novel by Alexander Freed, which was about rebels and troops on the ground. But give me a Band of Brothers style series of the rebellion post, what we've seen in Andor, Rogue One, Star Wars, but the actual story of I don't know, 12 rebel soldiers in a battle or something like that. I think that could be compelling because I don't know, because it would be about the actual fight against a suppressive government. It'd actually be boots literally on the ground and what that means when you turn that corner. And I think I admitted to coming around the corner a little bit on a series like Andor because again I maybe be too defensive on. It's too serious when now I'm like, well, if that's what it takes to just simply serve up political and social issue themes to an adult audience that has disconnected themselves from the true meaning of Star Wars, then that has value to me. And maybe that could be the way. They'd still probably miss it, and Paul Ryan will listen to Rage Against the Machine to the end of his days. But I think it would have value. So I think I'd go to those two spots. The sweeping tragic romance of Kenobi and Satine, or the band of rebel brothers and sisters and others on the ground in the fight.
Yeah, I love this. I think if I took this really literally, if I won the lottery and had a lot of money, that'd have to be a big lottery to make any sort of difference about what gets greenlit at Disney. You'd have to be able to get pretty close to, making a purchase after. So a real big lottery to actually impact what gets made. So being just totally pedantic about the question, if I won the lottery, I'd make a documentary because they can't stop me. I'd make a documentary about, I think Star Wars is in such an interesting place because it is one of the most popular things that has ever existed. And if you go outside and spend a minimum of 2 hours in almost any urban area, probably rural too, you'll find somebody with Star Wars somewhere on their body. It, is a hat, is a t-shirt, as a backpack, right? As a tattoo. It is one of the most popular things ever. But also doing ForceCenter, I think, has given me a view into sort of this community that I think of as all in. Whereas on one hand, everybody loves Star Wars. It's everywhere. But then there are people who it's made a bigger difference to. And I think we're still in that world sometimes where you go on social media and people will kind of be like, yeah, I've watched them I watch Star Wars and I have an opinion and I watch it once, but who are these weirdos who watch it all these times or name their kids or blah, blah, blah. And I think it would be really interesting to make a documentary about All In fans and how it has affected people's lives from the fun and the silly to the really profound of how it's gotten people. It's helped people understand themselves. It's helped people get through, difficult times and all that, and kind of put a positive face on All In fans.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it.
And then in terms of go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. You got to finish. You got to pitch. No, you got your pitch meeting. You got to pitch.
But if I had enough money that Uncle Bob would just be like, yep, whatever, make whatever. Skeleton Crew 2.
Oh yes,
season 2
yep.
is up there. I don't. This is total fantasy world right now because I don't know if the actors and the creators would come back. But I would love just like a made for streaming 2-movie event that wraps up the Acolyte. I want the conclusion of those characters' stories, and I feel like it's the kind of thing in the past where like a show is beloved by part of the fan base, or it's kind of a cult thing, but it's not quite big enough to continue. But hey, here's a movie, wrap it up. I would love that for Acolyte. And then the final one is I still want some probably an animated series about Luke's Jedi Temple. I just think there's so much opportunity there to meet the new Jedi that were introduced by Charles Soule's comic books and others, to see Luke in his prime, to see young Ben, and to see them the way we saw Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Clone Wars, knowing that bad times are coming for Obi-Wan and Anakin. But we still got to spend lots of time with them as flawed heroes and brothers and expand them. And I think that's opportunities there for Luke and Ben. And I really want the history of Snoke. And I think that could be wrapped into it. Does Snoke know he's a puppet? Is he just a meat puppet? And every word that comes out of his mouth is Palpatine's animating him from far away. Or does Snoke think he's Snoke, who thinks he's making his own choices, but he's not? Like all those kinds of fun philosophical questions. And when did Luke first encounter him? Did Luke have a fight with him? How did he first start seducing Ben to the dark side? And we've got some great stuff in the comics, but it'd be great to really play that out and see like, how did he get in there? What was the opening crack that made Ben turn to Snoke over Luke? All that stuff is really interesting to me. I'd love to see that.
Love it. Great stuff. Yeah, I was just gonna add Skeleton Crew 2 still crewing.
Yeah. Still crewing.
Yeah. And I want it set years later, and the kids, can just be the age they are. No shame on the actual young actors of Stranger Things, but just like, you know what? If they're 17, let them be 17. If they're 28, let them be 28. Just I don't care when season 2 happens. The only thing I want is the kids should be the age they are.
And there's almost something that'd be very freeing and kind of better, but also just like that'd be kind of fun to be like the old crew's back together again. Neil got married as a kid, Wim's off doing something cool first. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Neil sells baths.
Oh.
The bathtub salesperson. Yeah. Jennifer, any other thoughts for you of things you'd like to see in Star Wars?
Oh, no. I don't know. I want to appeal to like the young fans, and I don't know. You guys, it's bleak. They like such weird things, and it's so fractured. It's all very silly and absurd. Obviously, everyone knows, the 6-7 thing, skibbity toilet. Like, I don't know.
I just learned, shout out to Scotty, the Bombadcast, who came on my show, The Blathering, and taught me about Italian brain rot.
Oh, guy. Ballerina cappuccina.
Papa team. Absolutely. Joseph thinks you and I are absolutely having a medical emergency right now, but yes.
I'm doing my Sigma face.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by it because I love being in a position where it's like, you two could have made this up to just clown on me, and I wouldn't know. And I like it. It's fun.
No,
like,
I have Yeah, I clipped it out. It's on my channel. If anyone wants to try to understand it, Scotty takes me through it, and it's. I was like at one point, like Joseph, this is made up. You're complete. He's like, no, it is made up. That's the thing. kids. Anyways,
I
Jen.
know, you guys. There's like lore. There's
lore.
lore
There's
behind
lore.
like all these characters, a ballerina cappuccina and her family, and then there's like Tung Tung Sahur. Like it's insane. And like
Yeah.
I went to downtown and there were plushes of these Italian brain rot characters of like a tire with like a shark head. It's so absurd. How do
I
we
have a
get
theory.
this to Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean that would be fun. I have a theory that things are get weirder for young people because of the internet. Old people can ruin young people things much faster, right?
Yes.
Like
So true.
before the internet, it took a much longer time for youth things to filter up into general culture. But now you're like,
Right.
oh, 6, 7, I'll look it up. And so I
Yeah.
think the kids are forced to be like, okay, they figured out 6, 7. We need to figure out something even weirder, more dense, and impossible for old people to understand, so we can have our young person thing. Like, it was like almost 10 years ago now that AF was a thing, and like we looked it up, and now 68-year-olds are ending their tweets with AF. Like, we took it from you, youngins. We took it from you. We can take it so fast. So you got to make up something weirder.
Yeah, that's totally it. That's it. Wow. There you go.
Fascinating.
All right.
That's bleep. All right. Those are our questions, Ken.
Great questions. Fun discussion. And yes, ForceCenter went head on into Italian brain rot. So there you go. Oh, yeah. 6, 7 kids. I don't even know. Now I sound like your grandfather trying to be hip. Tucka, tucka, tucka. A lot of fun. It's tough out there. It's tough. And we appreciate you all hanging out with us. We're never going to shy away from the real issues, but we also want to make sure we enjoy other parts of things in the world that fill our hearts and souls up with hope and joy and inspiration. So thank you all for going on the journey. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. You can listen to our podcast version. And on there on Sundays, we rebroadcast Databank Brawl. Speaking of, actually, something that was always done with love and reverence and humor about Star Wars, check out Databank Brawl. You support us on Patreon, patreon.com/ForceCenter. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Go check out my show, The Blathering. Just go watch the clip of Scotty from Bombad, who is a 7th grade teacher coming on to teach me about Italian brain rot, and the look on my face as my brain kind of collapses in on itself. Check it out there, or you can go to my website, kennapzok.com. Jen, I'm expecting an Italian brain rot lesson from you as well. Where can they find you?
Yes, bring back Tung Tung Sahur is what I've been hearing a lot in my house. You can find me on all the social media sites at Jennifer Landa. I need to figure out how to delete TikTok. You guys. Anyways, you can find me by searching me somewhere. I'll be around.
Look for Jennifer in the clouds. Hear her in the wind. She'll be somewhere.
Whenever there's a cop beating up a guy, I'll be there. Joseph, horror filmmaker. Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the social media at Joseph Scrimshaw. Well, all the remaining social media as they fall like flies. And you can go to my website, josephscrimshaw.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, Finish Your Monsters, which I'm putting out once a week on Wednesdays, talking about trying to keep myself up to date with the goals I'm trying to get done, and more stuff coming about our horror film, Dead Media, soon.
There you go. That's it. We'll see you next time, you Burr Papa teams, right here on ForceCenter.